Destiny Payton, one of the most talked about names from Love and Marriage, Huntsville, seems to have finally reached that point where silence speaks louder than words. After months of quiet speculation, subtle clues, and missing appearances, it looks like the rumors might be true. Destiny has been quietly removed from the show. What makes this situation even more shocking is how it all appears to connect to none other than Martell Holt, and the unseen tension that's been building behind the scenes for months. For years, Destiny Payton's journey on Love and Marriage, Huntsville has been nothing short of a roller coaster. She came in with confidence, style, and an unshakable sense of self. From the moment she entered the scene, Destiny was different. She wasn't someone who sat in the background. She wasn't afraid to speak her mind or stand her ground. She carried herself like a woman who knew exactly who she was, and that's what made her presence powerful. At first, fans celebrated Destiny for her independence and transparency. She was a businesswoman, a mother, and a friend trying to rebuild her life after divorce. Her honesty made her relatable. But as the seasons unfolded, that strength and honesty became part of what made her such a lightning rod for drama. Because on a show like Love and Marriage, Huntsville, independence isn't always rewarded, drama is. Destiny's connection to Martell Holt automatically placed her in the middle of the storm. Martell, already surrounded by controversy from his broken marriage with Melody Sherry, carried a cloud of chaos that followed him everywhere he went. And because Destiny was one of the few people still seen supporting him publicly, that cloud began to hover over her too. Viewers started to see her not as her own person, but as part of Martell's world, and that world was filled with trouble. As the seasons progressed, Destiny's relationship with Melody crumbled. What started as a friendship turned into one of the show's most talked about rivalries. Fans took sides. Some believed Destiny was unfairly portrayed, that editing made her look colder and more secretive than she really was. Others accused her of playing both sides, keeping one foot in Martell's corner while pretending to rebuild peace with Melody. And in a world built on perception, the way the audience saw her started to shape her reality. Still, Destiny tried to hold her ground. She focused on her beauty brand, her family, and keeping her private life off camera. But that decision, to pull back from the chaos, may have been the very thing that sealed her fate. Because in reality television, quiet doesn't sell. When a cast member stops bringing visible conflict, their storyline begins to fade, and so does their relevance to producers who are looking for the next big headline. It wasn't long before fans began noticing that Destiny's screen time was shrinking. Her confessionals became fewer. Her appearances in group scenes felt shorter. Major storylines moved on without her, and when she was on camera, something felt off. The energy that once made her magnetic was replaced by what looked like distance, exhaustion, even frustration. Then, the silence began, a silence that has now become deafening. No new interviews. No major social media updates. No posts promoting new episodes. Nothing. Just a complete disconnect between Destiny and the show that once helped define her. Fans began asking questions: where's Destiny? Why hasn't she appeared in promos? Why hasn't she addressed the rumors? But the more people asked, the quieter she became. And that's when the whispers started, whispers that Destiny Payton had been quietly fired from Love and Marriage, Huntsville. Some people claimed it was because of her attitude. Others believed she wasn't bringing enough drama to justify her place on the show. But the biggest and most persistent rumor pointed straight toward Martell Holt. Behind the scenes, Martell's name has always been tied to chaos. His relationships, his arguments, and his behavior both on and off camera have repeatedly put the show in the headlines. But insiders say it wasn't just what viewers saw on screen, it was the behind-the-scenes control he allegedly tried to exert that caused real tension. Martell reportedly wanted influence over how storylines played out. He wanted to manage his image, decide how he looked in the public eye, and protect himself even if that meant hurting others' reputations. And in that world of silent power plays, Destiny may have gotten caught in the crossfire. At one point, she was seen as his ally, someone who defended him when others turned away. But when her loyalty to Martell began to clash with the rest of the cast, it created an invisible wall between Destiny and the women of the show. That wall didn't just affect her friendships, it affected how producers viewed her. Because if a cast member is seen as uncooperative, aligned with the wrong person, or unwilling to play the role the network wants, it becomes easy to push them aside. Soon, Destiny's storyline started to unravel in ways that didn't feel natural. Scenes felt edited to make her look disconnected or out of touch. Her reactions were shown without context. Her conversations felt cut short. To fans paying attention, it was obvious that something was changing, slowly, carefully, almost deliberately. And then came the silence. OWN never confirmed her departure. There was no statement, no farewell episode, no mention at reunions. Just a quiet removal. A quiet fade out. One day she was part of the story, the next, she was gone. That kind of quiet exit usually means one thing: damage control. Networks rarely erase cast members without reason. But when the silence is this loud, it suggests something deeper, a situation that involves legal agreements, internal conflicts, and business decisions made far above the cameras. According to insiders close to production, Destiny's removal might not have been personal, it might have been strategic. OWN, they say, was under pressure to clean up the show's image after a series of controversies tied to Martell. Between his public outbursts, his social media battles, and his unpredictable behavior, executives reportedly decided that the show needed to shift. They wanted less scandal, fewer messy feuds, and a return to the show's original mission: black excellence, entrepreneurship, and real relationships, not endless fighting. And unfortunately, Destiny was seen as part of Martell's shadow. Too close to the chaos. Too connected to the noise. So, the producers did what networks often do: they quietly phased her out. No confrontation. No public firing. Just fewer scenes, less visibility, and finally, silence. But not everyone believes it was that simple. Some people inside the production circle claim there was a deeper conflict between Destiny and Martell before she vanished from the screen. It allegedly started as a business disagreement, something involving an investor or a project they discussed off-camera. According to rumors, Destiny may have shared something Martell wanted to keep private, and that caused a rift between them. Not long after that, her appearances on the show began to fade. If that story is true, it means Destiny's downfall wasn't because she wasn't interesting, it was because she crossed someone who had influence behind the scenes. And when you look at how quickly she was erased, it all starts to make sense. Destiny's last few appearances on the show were strange. Her conversations were clipped, her interactions limited. She seemed separated from the main group, almost like a guest instead of a main cast member. Even during big group scenes, she was often shown on the sidelines, speaking less and reacting more. That kind of editing isn't random. It's intentional, a way to slowly train the audience to stop expecting someone's presence before they disappear entirely. By the time fans started asking where she was, the network had already moved on. New storylines took over, focusing on Melody's growth, Kimmy's health journey, and Letitia's marriage. The shift wasn't just about what was happening on screen, it was about who the show wanted to highlight as part of its new direction. Destiny, it seems, no longer fit that picture. But the question remains, was she fired because of her actions, or because of Martell Holt's influence behind the scenes? To answer that, you have to look at Martell's own history with the show. From the beginning, Martell has been both the star and the storm. His affair, his fallout with Melody, and his feuds with other cast members have kept the show alive, but they've also made it volatile. OWN executives have reportedly had growing concerns about his conduct and how it affects production. There were reports of him arguing with producers, demanding control over his portrayal, and even threatening to stop filming unless certain narratives were changed. That level of conflict can shake any production. And when someone like Destiny stands too close to that kind of energy, she becomes collateral damage. Around the time of her disappearance, sources say OWN executives began reviewing cast contracts and tightening expectations. They wanted professionalism. They wanted cooperation. They wanted peace on set. And when it came to Destiny, who was already struggling to find her footing after her fallout with Melody, the network might have seen her as an easy choice to quietly remove. No backlash. No drama. Just a clean break. But here's what's interesting, even though Destiny has been silent, she hasn't disappeared completely. She's still active in her business ventures, still present in her community, and still moving forward with quiet strength. That silence, though frustrating for fans, may actually be strategic. It's possible she signed a non-disclosure agreement as part of her exit, a common move in reality television when a network wants to protect its image. If that's true, it would explain why she hasn't said a word about her firing. She might legally be unable to. Instead, she's chosen peace. She's chosen to let her work and her growth speak for her. And in a world where everyone is chasing attention, that kind of restraint says a lot. Still, fans haven't forgotten. They continue to flood social media with questions, theories, and posts calling for Destiny's return. Many believe she was unfairly pushed out, that she was punished not for her behavior, but for being too close to Martell at the wrong time. Others think it was less about alliances and more about how the network wanted to reshape the show's image. Because when you look at how Love and Marriage, Huntsville has evolved, it's clear that OWN is shifting its focus. What began as a show about business and relationships among powerful black couples has, over time, turned into a battlefield of personal grudges and emotional war. And at some point, someone had to pay the price for that shift. Destiny's quiet exit might have been that sacrifice, a way for the network to draw a line and start over. But in doing so, they erased one of the most authentic, grounded voices on the show. Destiny wasn't perfect. She made mistakes. She had conflicts. But she also brought realism. She showed what it looks like to rebuild after heartbreak, to balance motherhood with ambition, and to stand firm in your truth even when people misunderstand you. That's what made her compelling. And perhaps that's what made her too real for reality TV. Because when you refuse to fake drama, when you don't play the role the producers write for you, when you start living instead of performing, reality television often finds a way to write you out. Still, if history tells us anything, Destiny Payton isn't done yet. Those who know her describe her as resilient, determined, and quietly strategic. She's been through far worse than a reality show exit, divorce, public scrutiny, betrayal, and yet she continues to rise with grace. The same way she once turned pain into purpose on screen, she's now doing it off screen, this time on her own terms. Her silence might not be defeat. It might be preparation. Because while OWN may have closed one chapter, Destiny might already be writing her next. Behind that silence, behind the calm, there could be a woman planning her own return, not necessarily to Love and Marriage, Huntsville, but to something even greater. Maybe another show, maybe a rebrand, maybe a project that finally lets her tell her story without manipulation or editing. If there's one thing fans know, it's that Destiny doesn't stay down for long. Her exit from Love and Marriage, Huntsville may have been quiet, but her presence left a mark that people still talk about. And no amount of editing can erase the truth that Destiny Payton brought something to that show that no one else could: authenticity. So, while the headlines focus on her being fired, the real story might be that she outgrew the drama that was holding her back. The real story might be that Destiny chose her peace, even if it meant walking away from the spotlight. And in the end, maybe that's the kind of power the network didn't expect her to have. Because true strength isn't in staying where you're tolerated, it's in walking away when your worth isn't valued. Destiny Payton's silence is her statement. And for those who have been watching closely, that statement says everything. Her journey on Love and Marriage, Huntsville may be over, but her story, her real story, is just beginning.